Welcome to today's CRM Magazine web event, brought to you by Informatica. I'm David Myron, Editorial Director of CRM Magazine, and I'll be the moderator for today's broadcast. Our presentation today is titled, Hyatt Hotels Corporation Transforms the Customer Experience with Customer Data Management. Before we start, allow me to explain how you can participate in the live broadcast. At the end of the event, there will be a question and answer session. If you have a question during the presentation, just type it into the question box provided and click on the Submit button. We'll try to answer as many questions as possible, but if your question has not been answered during the show, you'll receive an email response to it within a few days. Plus, if you'd like a copy of the presentation, you can download a PDF from the resource icon at the bottom of the console once the event is archived. Now to introduce our speakers for today's event. Tom Smith is the Area Vice President of Hyatt Hotels Corporation. SriHari Thotapalli is the Director of Customer Data Management at Hyatt Hotels Corporation. And Monica Mullen is the Solutions Marketing Manager at Informatica. To review the speakers' bios, please click on the arrow under the speakers' photos. So now, without further ado, let me pass the event over to our first presenter, Tom Smith, Area Vice President at Hyatt Hotels Corporation. Welcome to the broadcast, Tom.
Thank you, David. Appreciate it very much. If I could take a moment just to give a quick overview of Hyatt. We have 600 hotels globally with 12 diverse brands. We certainly have our luxury brand in Park Hyatt, and then our premium brands with Grand, Hyatt Regency, and Hyatt, and then our lifestyle brand certainly, and all-inclusive is our newest addition other than our Unbound collection. We were founded in 1957, so we'll be celebrating our 60th anniversary next year, and we'll do that with our 100,000 plus global associates from around the world. And certainly our Go Passport Frequent Traveler program being a highly respected contributor to our success over the years. So thank you, David, for the introduction to Hyatt.
All right, sure thing. So you should see a poll on your screen now, and let's get to that. So the poll question reads: As a loyal hotel guest, what is the most positive impact on your business or personal experience? Please select one of the following: to be recognized by the hotel team for your loyalty at reception, feeling like the hotel team goes above and beyond with individualized treatment, an unexpected surprise such as an appetizer, room upgrade, late checkout, thank you from the general manager, or I don't want to be recognized. And while we're waiting for the poll results, let's take a look at some of the companies that are represented during the live call. We have representatives from Lifetime Fitness, from Hilton Worldwide, TPG Hotels and Resorts, Transamerica, Accenture, Honda, and Florida Department of Agriculture, just to name a few. Okay, so it looks like the poll results are in, so why don't we go ahead and post those. And in response to the question, as a loyal hotel guest, what is the most positive impact on your business or personal experience? It looks like a pretty close race. Actually a tie for first with 45.3% of people saying feeling like the hotel team goes above and beyond with individualized treatment, and then 45.3% also saying an unexpected surprise such as an appetizer, room upgrade, late checkout, thank you from the general manager. So then the third place is far behind that, to be recognized by the hotel team for your loyalty at reception. So with that, let's hand it back over to Tom. Oh, I'm sorry. hand it back over to Monica. Monica Mullen is the Solutions Marketing Manager at Informatica. Welcome to the broadcast, Monica.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much, David. Don't you wish that sometimes it was all of the above? Any of those things, I think, would satisfy me as a frequent traveler. So I think you're in for a special treat today with this presentation from Hyatt. So, Tom, maybe it would be helpful for the people on the call today to just hear a little bit about Hyatt's purpose and how that might tie back to the poll question.
Thank you, Monica. Yes, and the poll questions actually do hit directly on our purpose to care for people so they can be their best. And really, our goal here is to build emotional connections and through authentic interactions. And it's about throwing out those rigid policies and informing and enabling employees to deliver what's in the best interest of each guest. So we want to deliver those consistent, seamless, and memorable experiences. That will certainly deliver on our purpose. And we need to manage complex relationships, and we'll get into that in a little bit, and also create lifetime value for our guests by delivering on our purpose. So if we are successful, we'll build an emotional, even an irrational bond with our guests going forward, Monica.
So on Twitter, in promoting this, we teased a little bit around, what's your favorite burger? So maybe what you can do is just give us a few examples of some of these experiences that you're creating at Hyatt and how that's impacting what you're doing.
Thank you. And two true real-life examples were tremendous. We had a guest that was staying in our hotel at Hyatt Regency Orlando, having a conversation about the greatest burger. He was a burger fanatic, and in previous history, we'd certainly deliver on that burger at the hotel locally. But what Hyatt Regency Orlando did through the data management that we're going to learn a little bit about here in a few minutes, they actually put it in their GEM notes, guest experience management notes, and those notes translated to a welcome note at the Grand Hyatt New York when they checked in for the 5 closest burger joints within walking distance of the hotel. It was so impactful to this loyal guest that their note back to the company was absolutely phenomenal, and their loyalty obviously enhanced. So again, we had the ability to deliver locally, but never necessarily that ability to deliver on a global scale. And if I can take another moment, another story about an Appletini, and again, this had the Hyatt Regency Orlando's footprint on it. But this guest had a very long ride for coast to coast and arrived very late. And it was in their notes, again, their GEM notes about being an Appletini fanatic. So lo and behold, when that guest got to their room, an Appletini arrived, and they were absolutely impressed with the ability to deliver on something that they really had never expressed verbally, necessarily requesting anyway, this amenity. So again, those surprise and delight touches tie right back to the poll, in that those are really delighters that will create some solid loyalty.
Yeah, and I think you make a good point, is being able to deliver those experiences at a local level, but how do you get them to scale? And then, how do you consistently deliver that across all of your 600 properties worldwide, right? So I think that's the big challenge here. So let's talk a little bit about the role of great data in delivering these great experiences. I think in many of our research that we've seen as marketers, right, being able to prioritize investments, often data falls to the bottom of the list and other investments are prioritized higher. So from your perspective, how does great data actually impact what you're trying to achieve at an operational level?
Yeah, Monica, particularly, we had, I would say, 70 million plus records of guest information when you rolled the global Hyatt records all together. And and I'll use my own name, for example, Tom Smith. We had several Tom Smiths in the system. So how do we utilize the data? And we've been successful at this, but how do we utilize finding the right Tom Smith to check in the right Tom Smith at arrival and make that experience personalized to that Tom Smith and not another Tom Smith? So that's really what it's enabled us to manage these complex customer relationships moving forward, and allowed us the opportunity to deliver on those much more consistently than we were able previously.
All right. So SriHari, as the Director of Customer Data Management at Hilton, is there anything you'd like to Hyatt, is there anything that you would like to add to the complexity of the relationships?
Yeah, thanks, Monica. So just if you scratch the surface, just beyond the guest and the hotel, the simple relationship between the guest and the hotel, you would see that the same guest can be a corporate traveler or a meeting planner or corporate travel planner. And in each of those cases, that also has an indirect relationship with the company that they're representing or working for. So that's kind of shows the complexity of the relationships that we need to understand and master before we can make sense out of our data.
All right, thank you. And so looking at the business need, how does that impact the way that you are managing your data, your customer data?
Yeah, so we can see from this picture, Hyatt is not one entity, right? We have 600 plus hotels. So each with the different operational practices and some localized systems to meet those operational requirements and regulatory requirements and so on. So we have to consider 600 plus systems, which equivalent to our number of hotels. So each of the systems have a localized property management system, food and beverage systems, sales systems in some cases, and also local HR and finance systems. So our challenge is even the data acquisition is a big challenge. Getting the data from all those systems in a timely fashion on a daily basis is a big challenge. And what we want to do is that once we get the data, we wanted to build a customer 360 view, which is just beyond the profile and preferences. Also enhance the data with the transactional information like financials and their customer satisfaction scores, and also the relationship between themselves and other companies that they worked for in the past or currently working for. So that is very important for us, so that we understand the full customer view all around, so that we can do better marketing and other programs. And the second thing is, once we collected all this data, once we cleaned up the data, we reduced like 10 Tom Smith to 1 Tom Smith. We wanted to make the data available back to the system, operational systems, so that they can take advantages. That's where our guest experience management or the GEM platform comes in. It provides real-time integration with clean data for any operational system that is interested in.
So I think that's really interesting, given the diversity of these systems, 600 properties, 600 different systems, at least, right, because of the different kinds of systems, reconciling it all down to one single record, and then, rolling that into this guest experience management system that Tom and other area vice presidents like him, their teams can use to deliver on the experience. So to overcome that challenge, how do you work with that? What do you do? What did you do to overcome that challenge?
So this is where, the power of Informatica comes in, just from a platform perspective, right? So we are able to, it was very, from a technology point of view, it was very easy and to address the complexity of the system. So what we do is we go to all these what we call source systems, which are either at the on-premise at the hotel or some of them centrally. Some of them are called out on this slide, like reservation system and the property systems. And on a nightly, sometimes on a daily basis, sometimes on an hourly basis, sometimes in real time, depending on the need, we pull the information using Informatica Power Center real-time platform. And then we process it, if there's any quality controls that we need to put in, that data runs through our IDQ platform, and then finally flows into our customer hub, which is built on Informatica MDM, and then into our warehouse. So, and then once that information is in those systems, we can make that available to reporting systems built on Cognos or campaign management systems built on SaaS, and to do a lot of marketing activities, including some amount of real-time marketing that is fed back into our operational systems like central reservation and also our digital marketing channels. So just to summarize, we had, at least 600 plus systems that we needed to integrate, actually more than 1,000 systems, and then we process more than 1,000 plus files every day. And we're mastering, from an MDM perspective, we're mastering 2 domains right now, which are individual and company. I would say we have about 50 million records between those 2 domains. Other thing that I want to point out is, when we started the journey, it probably took us about an year to get to beyond the beta into first phase rollout. Obviously we did not bring in all this work with all the systems, but the first phase of rollout took us to get to that. It took a year.
So what's interesting, I think, about that as well is managing this customer data across these different properties is helping you not just with your marketing and your traditional corporate types of activities, but also pushing out to the operations and doing those things like what Tom had mentioned earlier with the hamburgers, with the appletinis, and other needs that customers or guests might need around baby cribs or yoga mats or anything that's individualized to them. So Tom, what operational systems are you accessing or your team's accessing that have this data? And could you just give an example on how that is helping your teams and the impact that it's making to them on their daily activities?
Sure, Monica. We actually are, I think through the guest experience management system that SriHari was describing the architecture of, our employees and associates have access to that data and the ability to delight with the burger and the appletini, as you mentioned earlier. It really is motivating to them. It's provided a spark in our careers because it's really exciting to be able to delight guests at such a personal and system-wide level. And who doesn't enjoy giving gifts, right, and delighting people? It's really how wonderful that is to be able to do with guests. And it really opens their minds up of how they can try and delight guests in different ways and be more creative. So it really, not to use an old word of empowerment, but it certainly empowers them in their roles to do more. And really the sky's the limit. So between our guest experience management system and our property management systems and reservation systems, those are the 3 key systems that really are the systems that are allowing us to deliver on this opportunity.
Great. So another question, I think, and something that people frequently look at is, how do you engage the business? Obviously, Tom and SriHari, you guys work closely together. So SriHari, who was the executive sponsor for this initiative? And maybe you could share how the role that executive played and how they helped move this forward.
So in our sure, Monica. In our case, it was our chief marketing officer who was the driving force behind this initiative. So it was actually good for us that, as a senior leader, there was recognition that we need to focus on the data. So what he did was, being the senior leader, just not making a business case for building this. He also worked with the hotel operations and the leaders like Tom to educate the benefits of doing this, building our guest experience management system, and then also educating our colleagues with promotional videos and examples, real-world examples on how it could benefit our guests and thereby improve the guest experience and also bring additional revenue through other marketing initiatives. So our CMO played a great role in driving this.
Yeah, and I think you bring up a good point, and that is communicating it out as well, right? Being able to get that buy-in from all employees. So, Tom, what was your role in bringing this initiative to light? Did you hear about it before it got started, or during the implementation, or after it went live? Maybe you could talk a little bit about that too.
Sure. Thank you, Monica. Actually, I was in our corporate office at the time that we were discussing the GEM system, and so I was able to see it on the early phases as we were starting to have the initial discussions, and then went to the property level and ran a group of hotels that I'm currently doing now. And once the implementation came, there were trainings that took about a day and a half at the property level, and groups of hotels came together really to manage this process. And when you really think about it, the key to the success of it, now that the architecture is there, is the ability to gain information and glean information from our guests through empathy interviews and understand what's important to them, and understand whether it's a preference or a need or just a one-time want. So I'll use an example of a latte, for example. I may be fanatical about a latte, or I may want a latte every now and then. But if it's in my preferences that person cannot wake up until they have a latte, this would be a real interest level that we have to put into the system properly, so we don't miss the opportunity to delight, because we all know that moment of truth is important, and delivering on a preference that someone wants every once in a while versus something they need every single day is certainly a very big difference. So managing this information and gaining the right information that is important to that guest really is where the magic is with this system, now that it has been built in such a great way. I don't know if that makes sense or not, but it's a real important part of it that we really need to take the time to gain that importance of that preference from that individual guest.
Yeah, I think that does make sense, right? And it's a learning process as well. So I think it's critical. So what would your advice be then on how IT, right, can communicate the impact, the benefits, or engage with the business around managing data, right? As I mentioned earlier, it's kind of like that overlooked area of investment. So what's the best way, in your opinion, for IT to engage with business around this?
Well, I think that's what's been happening is there's been learnings that have happened between SriHari and his team and the field. And I believe from the business side of things, it's certainly critical to engage with, can we do this or can we do that, and never stop trying to evolve the system itself. And I think that partnership is truly there between IT and I think it's just conversations that have to be ongoing, that it's not a one-and-done build. It has to be continual evolution of that system. And I think that's what SriHari feels, is that we certainly have that open line of communication that allows the next generation of what it's going to look like and facilitate going forward, and not just think, okay, we've rolled this out and now we're on to the next project. It's really going to continue to evolve over time.
Right, and I think that's key. And so when things do evolve over time and they continue to get refreshed or renewed, an important piece of that is data governance. So let's talk a little bit about data governance. SriHari, was there already a process in place, or did this initiative create that need to put some rigor and policies around the governance process?
Sure, Monica. So since we were building our solution from ground up, we did not have an existing data governance process. So we had to build it from, again, ground up along with the overall solution. So for us, with the data governance, our approach for data governance has been partnership, right? Just how Tom has alluded to previously. And for that partnership, people are the most important piece of the partnership. So making our colleagues and everyone who's involved with customer data understand the importance of collecting quality information and relevant information so that we can utilize it for better customer experience and also marketing purposes was an important challenge. And also our main objective for the data governance approach. Along with the people, the process comes in where we have instituted processes where there are important pieces of information in various systems where there was no quality checks that were not in place, or whether they were not required pieces of information. We made sure those were changed. And then lastly, technology, but technology is really an enabler. It stays in the background and helps the people work with the process work smoothly, utilizing the processes that we have put in place.
Yeah, it's always that three-legged stool, right? People, process, and technology, making sure that they line up and are coordinated. So Tom, given that so much of this information comes in from the operational side, that's highly distributed. What role and guidance do you have around governing the data to make sure that it remains trustworthy and relevant, right? So maybe you could talk a little bit about that as well.
That's really a great question, Monica, because I think the data governance is certainly critical to this, because let's say that, let's stay with the Appletini, that this guest has had enough Appletinis. And so they've expired on their want of and like of Appletinis. We have to, through our empathy interviews and gaining a better knowledge of our guests' preferences, really have to be able to go in and modify the data, and we can do that with this system. So I think that's where the operational data governance falls in place and allows us to go in and modify the system very easily through their feedback. If they come down to the front desk or in the bar and they say, that was the greatest, I love this Appletini, this is unbelievable, keep doing it, that's certainly reinforcement. But then if they say, I've had enough Appletinis, I'm really done with that, we would have to go into the system, and it's very easy to do, and modify the system. And hopefully through that conversation, and as we get better at the experience, we can become more data. We can find out what their next preference is, so that can then be entered. So one can go away, one can come in, or maybe there's other preferences they may have that have nothing to do with food and beverage. So really it's about trying to make that experience personal and make it so it is a delighter for the guest, and not just stay with one preference. I mean, you think about also when families have children, and if the traveler is not traveling with their family, they may not need a crib when they're traveling. So keeping that data clean and to that person's preferences is certainly critical to us, and we'll get better at it as we go through time and using the system.
Right. You start to learn what works, what doesn't work, what's relevant, what's not relevant, and the world is in constant change and motion. So I think you have a big job ahead of you on keeping that data clean and relevant.
Right.
SriHari, did you have anything you wanted to add before we go to the next?
No, I just want to say that, it is, again, it's the people are the most important part of this data governance approach, because without the great participation and partnership approach from our hotel operations teams like Tom and his team in Orlando and their area, but across our company, we would not be this successful with the overall initiative.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. So, a topic that's near and dear to my heart, just switching over, why Informatica? What were some of the key things that are helping you manage this information over time, right? Again, distributed globally and moving towards more real-time types of activities.
Sure, Monica. So when we look at around the marketplace, what we saw was Informatica was the only pure play vendor with, I would say, laser sharp focus on product and innovation, and that was the most important when choosing the tool. And then after we chose the tool, we are very happy because of the right amount of support resources that are available to us at any phase of the project. We are in a steady state now, but even now and then when we need to do something new or go through an upgrade of the process, we have great partnership with different folks at Informatica. So that is, I think, is a second key differentiator for me. Beyond that, I would say the simple architecture for both implementation and maintenance are I would say the three things that I would call out as my reasons for choosing Informatica.
All right, and then Tom, maybe you could share also what impact Informatica has had on your business.
Sure. I think with Informatica's technology and our culture, we've certainly developed new business practices and efficiencies that have transformed the way our hotels really do business. It's, as I mentioned earlier, fun for our associates. Our passion for why most of us in the field got into the business is being re-energized by Informatica and by our guest experience management system, really on a global scale. So I think this is really a differentiator for us, and one that's going to be a constant evolution. So I know it's exciting for everyone in the hotels, and it's a language unto its own now. So we're very happy to be working with Informatica.
It's nice when it starts to become a language, right? You know it's really adopted at that point in time.
Right.
And so I think, Tom, there have been some really stellar results on the business side. And maybe you can talk about some of those as well on how it's impacted some of the things that guide you or your strategy from a business perspective.
Sure. We actually know a lot more about our customer right now, and that's certainly helpful as we move forward, and I think SriHari will get into that. There's operational efficiencies that exist when you're able to deliver on guests' true preferences and not have to guess at it and their likes and dislikes. So that gives us more information and helps us really deliver on what their expectations are. From what we can tell from the data that we've received, our guest engagement metric increases have been substantial on recognizing those preferences. We track our preferences through Net Promoter Score, and those have been very solid at this point. And again, as I mentioned earlier, we know the preferences and we can act on them. And those guests that we know the preferences of are certainly happier and more loyal to us. So I think the results are, while they're somewhat infant stages at this point, are pointing us in the right direction.
Oh, that's nice to hear. And SriHari, from your perspective, I mean, at the corporate level, what have you been able to notice as well? What's some of the feedback that you're seeing?
Sure, Monica. Beyond the guest experience improvements and that we're seeing from the operational side or the Net Promoter Score, we, by leveraging the single view of the customer, which we call Customer 360, we have seen almost a 19% increase in our upsell promotional offer adoption rate, which is, higher adoption rate driving about 19% increase in year-over-year revenue. So that is real hard benefit. And also by having the single view of the customer, we are able to reduce the cost on our loyalty program, global promotions, by targeting the right guests first. And also, having this single view of the customer, we can we are working on different digital marketing initiatives which leverage data for the customer or segment the customer based on different needs around brand or location-based marketing, and also we are also able to build some analytical applications like predictive models based on this data. So it has been a big help for us in building this solution and having the single view of the customer.
Oh, that's excellent. It's nice to see the results like that and to know that you're building and looking towards the future on new things to implement, right? Not resting on the results you have so far. So that's fantastic. So one of the things I'm sure people are curious about, because they always want to know, how do I avoid the mistakes? What can I learn from others' experiences? So maybe we can talk a little bit more about, SriHari, some of the lessons learned on this customer data management journey.
Sure, Monica. The most important thing for me that I learned is, which is partly my decision, partly the decision that was made before me, was we need to embrace the ecosystem. What I mean by that is, if set of Informatica tools are tested and built to work with certain technologies, we want to leverage all of them, integrate all of them, and make them work together rather than trying to build in pieces of technologies that are already there in your enterprise and trying to make it work with the new tools from Informatica. So, for example, for us, we were trying to make DB2 work with Informatica. That was back in 2013 and 2012. So that was not really a fun effort. So, and also leveraging Address Doctor, which has built-in hooks into Informatica, is again something that which we learned the hard way would be a better choice than leveraging other tools. And just from an MDM point of view, I would say start with one domain, surely, and also start with a simple data model. Don't try to master like too many source systems, and also keep your BO pretty lightweight, right? So you don't want to have too many columns in your main BO. So and also, I mean, what I would say, what I'm calling version 0.5 is greater than 1 is basically have a frequent releases so that you build incrementally versus trying to wait for an year or a 6 months or a year for releasing new functionality. So that way you can drive benefits quickly to the business. Again, something more intuitive, but sometimes we kind of get lost in the project and forget about it, but the initial data load time increases exponentially with volume, so which you would find the need to do many times as you're bringing in a new source system or building your system from ground up. So you just have to make sure that when you're doing that, be aware of that. Be aware that the load time increases with volume.
Yeah, and thanks for that. I think the delivering in small measures, right? So the business recognizes the value probably has helped a lot with the adoption too. So that's nice to hear. Tom, what about you?
Well, I think the purpose that we started out the webinar with, to care for people so they can be their best. I mean, really, it's back to the human aspect, and data is really reinvigorating us to be able to innovate in things that we, in ways that we weren't sure we could before, or were not able to before on a global scale. So again, as I mentioned before, it is a differentiator, and we're able to delight people like the road warriors. Think about a road warrior that's on the road 5 days a week. It's a tough life, and if we can create moments of brilliance for them, how wonderful that is. And then when they include their family at times, even better that you can draw your family into that. So our one of our values is to have fun, and I think Informatica has helped us deliver on this, and we're able to deliver on that with our guests and associates on a much more consistent basis around the world. So I think that's lessons learned for us is we need to continue to evolve the data that we get. And back to one of the initial topics, the Tom Smith that's on business travel versus the Tom Smith on leisure travel are different people as well. How do we differentiate them in a meaningful way so we can create a great experience for them moving forward on a much more consistent basis? So again, I'm very excited about what the future holds as we get better at using the system and what it's built for.
And that's great comment for what the future holds. So let's talk about the next steps on the journey. SriHari, what are the next steps on your data management journey? Where do you go from here?
A couple of things are very hard for us. One, mastering new domains. For us, location is very key domain, which is basically the hotel metadata. It seems fairly small and small amount of data to manage, but there are a lot of complexities. I'm sure if folks from hotel companies or other companies can appreciate who have location-based businesses. And the second thing is getting more into a product side of our data around room types and our outlets / restaurants. So those are the two domains that we want to master. And also leverage Informatica Data Director and associated tools to have a more formal data stewardship process for corporate accounts. enabling us to better track global revenue from companies and also possibly to prospect better.
Yeah, I think that those are good things. To move into, especially when you talk about room types and locations, right? Because that's the unique thing about Hyatt is very individual hotels and styles across your brands as well as within your locations, taking on the flavors of those unique locations themselves. So, Tom, what do you think that this will have on the impact on the business side on these next steps?
Well, I think SriHari really touched on it. If we can get down to the level of someone's satisfaction with a particular room type, and we could scale that and be able to deliver that on a consistent basis, that would certainly be very powerful, and that would certainly be something that would make it easier to deliver on those for our associates, and it takes the mind work out of it sometimes on the type of room that that guest receives. So that's a very basic and fundamental need. I think the restaurant preferences, what sort of foods they enjoy. I mean, I really think going forward we can create memorable experiences if we really are able to take on some of those challenges that SriHari discussed, and I think those over time will happen. And I think that the platform, the basic platform that we have right now, and that's on the IT side, expanding that, but then if you have the operational side, the basics that we're trying to get our teams comfortable with now, with learning preferences and being effective empathy interviewers and information gatherers on preferences, will grow over time. And once IT is ready to implement, I think what we're going to see is our teams are going to be ready to take on these bigger challenges. So, and allow us to live our purpose even more, to care for people so they can be their best. So, again, I think the future is very bright, and I'm happy that SriHari's up there building it.
Yes. And as a road warrior, oh, go ahead.
No, I was saying thanks, Tom.
I was going to say thanks to both of you, because as a road warrior, which I'm sure many of the people on today's webinar are as well, having somebody look out for us like you're doing with this data management system and process and how that filters out to the operations is very much appreciated. So I think that's all we have for the prepared slides. So back to you, David. I know we've got a lot of good questions out there that I'm sure people are anxious to get to.
All right, Monica, thank you for that, and thank you to Tom and SriHari as well for your participation there. Before we move into our question and answer session, you should see a survey popping up on your screen now. Please take a moment to fill this out, as your feedback is important to us. And while you're doing that, let's go ahead and move into our viewers' questions. Yeah, Monica, you're right. We do have a lot of questions, and I'd like to dive right into those. As a reminder, if you have a question, just type it into the question box provided and click on the submit button. As I stated earlier, we'll try to answer as many questions as possible, but if your question has not been answered during the live show, you will receive an email response to it within a few days. Okay, so with that, we have a question from one of our viewers who asks, how do you quantify the ROI off the impact of the GEM system? Do you see repeat stays from the same individual? Do you see tweets that you have a dollar value associated to?
SriHari, I can jump on this first. I think we value that through our Net Promoter Score, and while some of it's intuitive that will yield higher returns, I don't have the data on that. But again, through higher guest satisfaction, certainly with them being delighted with their stays, there certainly would be that loyalty that they would return given an option to return to a city with a Hyatt. So I don't know if we see anything company-wide SriHari or not.
Yeah. So the other thing, so on the company-wide or from a marketing perspective, I mean, the big ROI for us is to define our value of each customer to Hyatt. So which is what we are able to do now, which is a big thing which we did not have. So imagine that you have all your customers, all your guests that come into your hotels for like several years, and then now you having a single view and having a single profile through our GEM system. Now you're able to assign a value or a dollar amount to each of those guests, and then rank them and able to segment those guests on those ranks and market to them. That is the powerful thing that we can do now.
All right, great. Thanks for that. Next question is, how are you able to figure out if two people with the same name of Tom Smith actually belong? How do you figure out if a customer record actually belongs to the right Tom Smith and not someone else who simply happens to have the same name?
Tom, I'll take that one.
Okay.
Yeah. So the most, we are a bit conservative on that. So let me say it that way first, and then how we do it. We start with the address, right? So obviously the physical address attached to the guest has to match. That is very important for us. If the address is not available or their email is available, at least their email should exactly match. So if you have the same name and the same email or same name or the same address, we think that's a reasonable match to the same customer. We have other rules which play a role. It's just not these two rules, but those are the two main ones that I can share.
All right, thank you. I'm going to combine a couple of questions. We have a question from Richard and a question from William, who talk about getting customer data and how you do that. So how do you get customer preferences? Do you get it via the rewards profile? Do you get it passively? Do you passively accept information from customers when offered, or do you actively ask for preferences when entering information into the guest experience management system? And I guess what William is asking when talking about passively versus actively, one could be simply asking for the information, and then the other could be simply observing their behavior and entering the data into the system.
Yeah,
David,
I can take this. Yeah, I can take this one to Tom. It's up.
Okay.
Yeah, if you don't mind. So on the active part, I think that's where operationally where Tom comes in. But so I would say all the above. So we combine preferences from all our touch points, including loyalty system or .com assets, our call centers, all the customer, and also the hotels. And passively, we do monitor do text analytics on the comments and other guest comments, and also the hotel colleague comments. We mine those comments and we glean preferences from them too. So both actively from all our touch points and also passively from comments and other unstructured data.
All right, Tom, anything to add to that?
Yes. So, I think it's really about a conversation and trying to have conversations, and, the bartenders, the servers, the front office agents, concierge really have, through conversations with guests, because most guests really enjoy speaking with our people, and they, obviously our associates are in the business because they enjoy speaking with guests. So a lot is gleaned through conversations, and I think that would be more passive. I think the risk is, and I think that's what may be being asked as well, the risk is if you ask someone to fill out a fact sheet or a preference sheet, they're going to expect that to be delivered every time. But if you just have a conversation with a bartender, like in our burger story, and all of a sudden at another hotel it shows up, how did this happen? your mind becomes boggled, and you realize how it happened, but it didn't happen because you asked it to happen. It happened because organically the associate cared enough and then really lived our purpose. Does that make sense, David?
Yes, it does. Thank you for that, Tom. I have a couple more questions that I want to combine. I have a question from Terry that asks, does Hyatt maintain a personal profile versus a business profile for guests? And adding to that, Tom asks, what do you want to know about customers that you don't know? And gives an example of a guest that is the president of a partner or distributor of Hyatt that you might want to include. How do you handle those issues?
Well, I can take the second one first, and I became embroiled with the second one, so you might have to repeat the first one.
Sure.
What kind of preferences would we like? I really I can't think of any that we are not able to get. I think the real question is, what can we action on? If someone is a fan of the Minnesota Twins, for example, what can we action on that? We could put a baseball or baseball cap or something in the room, or find out if they're playing in the area or not. But we really want things that will make the experience for that traveler even better. So I think that's the real question, is making sure that we have the right information in the system that we've gleaned and making it actionable. And I missed the first part of the question because I was focused on the second.
Yeah, I can ask. So the first part of the question is a little similar, but I'll ask it anyway because it could require a different answer. So does Hyatt maintain a personal profile versus a business profile for guests?
So we, and I don't know if SriHari, if we're maintaining separate profiles, but we have the one profile that I see in the system. I don't know if that's something that we're looking at, but we have the preferences all in one profile at this point.
Yeah, so just a nuance there, Tom. I mean, we do have, it is one profile, but there's a business section of the profile. If it is available, we will fill that in.
All right, great. Thank you for that. Well, we are at the top of the hour, so unfortunately that means we're out of time. I'd like to thank everyone who asked their questions. We really did receive a lot of great questions, so thank you for those. And I'd also like to thank our speakers today, Tom Smith, Area Vice President of Hyatt Hotels Corporation, SriHari Thotapalli, who is the Director of Customer Data Management at Hyatt Hotels Corporation, and Monica Mullen, Solutions Marketing Manager at Informatica. If you'd like a copy of the presentation, you can download it once the event is archived. And if you'd like to review this event or send it to a colleague, please use the same web address that you used for today's event. It will be archived for 90 days. Plus, as a courtesy, you'll receive an email once the archive is posted. And just for participating in today's event, you can win this Google Chromecast. The winner will be posted on destinationcrm.com on September 30th. Please visit our website to see if you're the winner. And if you stay on the console, you'll be redirected to a page on how to start your customer journey. This concludes our broadcast. Thank you for joining us.